To this day, PETG has adhered to that plate. When you have a glass print bed, it can really bond to it.
Welcome back to Keo Prints. We're going to learn about PETG.
That's good. That is good. Those are my favorite. You never know what's going to come out of Kory's mouth. Let's start with opening. So I have 2 rolls there on your shelf. Yep, that one and then the open one. You can bring them both over.
Ah, this one.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at. They should be the same. What are you going to use to open it this time?
Is this, what do we got? We got the same stuff as always. Wow, bro.
Typo.
What's this do?
Oh!
Oh, more candy. Pop rocks, but spicy.
Don't eat that.
Interesting smell to it. Alright. It looks the same. Plasticky. It might feel like maybe slightly different. Maybe like smoother.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost like greasy.
Uh-huh.
In a sense, not like greasy, but like smooth of.
Or more slippery.
Yeah, slippery.
Yeah. And kind of shinier and stuff too.
Yeah.
Tell us what the internet has to say. If you're just now learning about PETG, because you are, how do you learn things about PETG? What's the internet have to say about it?
Well, I just go on to straight up the internet.
Yep.
YouTube's a really fun one. I found out PET is what bottles and stuff are made out of.
Yeah, you're right,
It's
dude.
fancy.
Uh-huh.
In order to print with it, they added the G because it sounds cooler. And also, it adds glycol into it, which allegedly prevents crystallization
Oh, interesting.
as it's getting warm. So within the, I'm not going to be able to say it, proethylene terephthalate.
Oh, really?
Is that, yeah, I'm terrible with pronunciations. I don't know if that's even close.
I don't know. Give her a go.
Polyethylene terephthalate.
Terephthalate.
Yeah, there's no hyphen or anything, but I was trying to emphasize the pH.
Polyethylene terephthalate glycol.
Yeah.
What a stupid thing. Polyethylene terephthalate glycol. Gross. That's worse than PTFE, which is polytetrafluoroethylene. Polytetrafluoroethylene.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
edited that so much for some reason. Polytetrafluoroethylene is just like burned in. PETG. Dang, you did your research, dude, in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
Talking about preventing crystallization in the broad spectrum of thermoplastics, which is what all these are. Thermoplastics are kind of defined by, it's a plastic you can heat up and cool down, heat up and cool down, heat up and cool down.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't necessarily degrade. It does a little bit, kind of loses some of its elasticity. But from what I understand, PET for bottles, adding the G makes these long chains of polymers. The result of that makes it yield more instead of being as rigid. So you get something a lot tougher. It melts a lot higher, so it's generally a stronger thing too. So people use PETG for more functional things
Okay.
than the PLA. So typically this is still prints pretty well, maybe a little bit more stringy because of those long polymer chains, because of the glycolness, the stickiness of it, but generally tougher, or is looked at as tougher.
You said stringy. Which is funny you bring that up. That was something I was reading. One of the issues, not really issues I would say with printing with it, but byproducts is you'll get some stringiness. And that is where they have some tips on actually printing with it. It is, you mentioned it's going to print higher temp. Even right here it says about 230 to 250. Celsius. I've even seen some places say up to 260, 265 range. It might be one of those things where you got to kind of test a little bit to see how your printer works, where you're at, and everything else. Bed temp of around 80 to 90. The internet tells me, yeah, about the same. This one says down to 65 to 90, you should be all right.
Most of these filaments is kind of a guess and check thing anyway. I know another consideration with PETG is when you have a glass print bed, it can really bond to it, and it'll rip up some of the coating on the glass, like the silica coating will come up with the print.
Yeah. It sticks really well.
Yeah,
apparently.
The bed adhesion apparently can be too much.
They do still suggest, like glue sticks, I think you said. You think it'd be stickier, but it just adds an extra layer beyond your bed and the print.
Yeah, so you get that interface layer so it doesn't stick and bond to the bed.
Which I would thought would be the opposite.
Right.
Like, no, it does the opposite of what you think.
It's using the glue stick to make it not stick too much.
Yeah.
Instead of making it stick. Yeah. Interesting.
It's too sticky, so we're going to double it out with an extra sticky to make it less sticky.
Exactly. One of my printers, I haven't printed with PETG too much, but one of them's got a little chunk out of the bed because it ripped off some of the glass from the bed. Yeah. I also didn't let it cool before I took it off too. I was trying to get that one out the door, so that might have been part of it. But yeah, it was just like a little chunk of glass that came off with it. Because I was like, how bad can it be, really? You know.
The internet says one thing, but really.
The other problem I had with PETG was it wasn't sticking. So I've had both on glass beds where it doesn't stick well enough and it was curling in the corners and stuff. And then in that case, it did the opposite where it stuck too much. So we'll print some testers on your printer, and we'll print some on these guys with Bamboo's presets.
Ooh.
And then we'll just kind of compare. That way we can get a good comparison between a regular spring steel PEI coated bed or a glass bed. I think we pretty well covered. Oh no, the other thing we need to cover, and the reason what I kind of want to mess with, this one's been open for, I don't know, a year or something. PETG soaks up water from the air a little bit. In theory, this one's gonna have soaked up some moisture. So we'll just send that through and see kind of if it's soaked up enough moisture, if this is a moist enough environment for it to actually result in print artifacts from it or not. So that's why we got that one as well. So we'll probably do a little bit of testing, a little bit of comparing. We'll see what they do.
Easy.
This will be easy. Yeah, go ahead, turn it on. Silly guy. Hey. Woo-hoo. And go into prepare and preheat. And there should be a PETG setting to preheat to, I think. Yeah.
Fresh.
So fresh and clean.
Fresh and clean.
Moment of truth. Last time, you popped her right in.
This is legit the first time I've ever successfully just like loaded this thing without much. Like, it looks like I do this all the time.
Oh,
balls.
Oh, what? Did you get it again?
Yeah.
Are you just learning? Is that what's happening? Okay. Well, we'll do some printing with PETG at whatever unspecified temperature. So we decided we were going to print at 255 degrees Celsius because that's kind of standard and we don't know much about printing PETG. The first print was going alright until it wasn't going alright. It seemed like we were having some bed adhesion issues, but I guess I'd kinda experienced that before when printing on these glass print beds. At this point, I was okay with the fact that I didn't put glue stick on the bed because I feel like having that interface layer would have made the adhesion problems worse and not better. So it's good that I didn't have that glue stick on there. Having that interface layer surely would make it worse. and would not have been a good thing, right?
Since it's so sticky, you might want a second layer between your glass and the print, like glue. I've heard painter's tape.
I didn't listen.
So welcome to our test grounds. First, we'll start up with a little blending test. Crush them up, see what happens here. Then we got the crush test, where we'll put a ton of pressure on it, see if it explodes or just kind of collapses. We also have a roller test. Leave it in there for a long amount of time, see what kind of happens after that. Last but not least, our Dremel test. Let's get a little scratchies, see how it can handle that. Let's check it out.
It's pretty horrendous.
Looks like it withered away.
Have you looked at the plate? Your build plate? Look how bad.
It's stuck out there.
It is, too. And it was like, you did such a good job introducing, like, use some glue to make sure it doesn't do this exact thing. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to print stuff. Of course I'll use glue. Guess who didn't use glue?
Forgot to use a little
Didn't
bit.
Didn't even.
I like that it ripped off.
Yeah, fully ripped off some of that. And then also there, also there, also there. Yeah, pretty ruthless. Anyhow, let's blend some of this garbage.
We picked this bad boy. I don't know why. I just look like you're gonna be a good blender.
you're gonna be. It's gonna be a good blend candidate. So that appears to have. God, it's so terrible. It's just so bad. It's 1, and I'm gonna say 10%. 1 perimeter, 10% infill.
And spider webs.
Total spider webs. Oh yeah. It's important. It's important.
That close enough.
Nailed it. So close. Alright, so we do it on low for 10 seconds. Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
They got real fine. Got a little crushy test.
What's that one look like? Perimeters and
Let's
such.
say maybe, I'm gonna guess 3
Is it?
out of 10%.
Yeah, that is 3. I think you're right. Yep, for sure 3.
Trying to go off the thickness because the ones are like super.
Yeah. This is why people don't use enders.
Oh, or these are all the
These
ender
are
ones?
the ender ones. It's gonna try and shoot it out the back. There you go. There, it pinned it straight. Sounds so crispy.
this will be our best option
Yeah,
out
because
of
look
it.
how fuzzy and terrible.
Just roughness all over.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if it cleaned it up.
Yeah.
So I really did have high hopes for the rock tumbling. It polishes rocks, so surely it can polish plastic. This PETG just printed awful when I printed it on Kory's printer, so I was really hopeful that maybe this was going to be a quick and easy way to get rid of all this garbage that was on these prints. It didn't work.
Clap that was never needed. A clap heard around the world. Which one? Super polishy?
Oh, the freshest. Give her a go. Vacuuming duty after this. Vacuum over there.
That should have been way more intense. It's the smallest.
What do you remember about it?
Mostly, I remember it prints at a higher temperature than PLA.
250 to 270 range, good, so that's the printing temperature. What else?
It comes out stringier. It's not as rigid as PLA, but it's more
Tough.
tough.
Tough is the word. This one is more on the tough end, where PLA is more on the rigid end. So stringiness is definitely a thing. Pretty much it prints like PLA now. All the software has a reasonable tune. You can almost use it in place of PLA, and a lot of people almost just print PETG. But costs about the same, does about the same thing. You can get it in all the colors now too. That wasn't always the case. So the temperature resistance, I think, is the big thing. PLA prints at 210-ish. PETG prints at 250, 260-ish. Generally, it's printing hotter, it's going to withstand higher temperatures. PETG put in a car, it would do better than PLA that's been in a car.
A hot car.
A hot car.
Specifically.
It's the summer, we could do that, I guess. What else did we learn about it?
It needs to be a dry box, right?
Oh, yeah. So, we did learn about that. So this is our nacho test print. What happened? This is a PETG black, the same spool that we printed the testers out of. It was fresh, so it didn't require any drying. PETG is technically hydroscopic, which means it absorbs water from the air, and that results in print artifacts and issues. So this one, this is a nacho that printed out of a clear PETG. So this isn't a white PETG, this is a clear PETG. That I've had sitting open for sort of 6 months or so. As it's coming out the nozzle, it's like bubbling and sizzling. Like it sounds like bacon as it's printing.
The water cooking awful.
The adhesion on it is terrible. Like none of the layers are sticking together. So I took that same spool and I dried it for 6 hours at 50 Celsius, I think our dry box does, and printed it again. And that one was immediately not printing this poorly at all, and it was not sizzling anymore. So that fixed that problem. It wasn't stringing or sizzling, but I did notice the temperature also wasn't high enough. So I bumped it up to 270 or 275, I think.
Could you mostly tell off the color?
Mostly the color.
Okay.
Bumping it up got us this one.
Ooh.
You tell? Color? Completely different. Smoothness, dude. Nice uniform layers.
Man.
Even the overhang looks pretty good, whereas this overhang under his chin here looks terrible. And also his head came off, so... So it was a pretty good example of wet filament, but also just this specific clear filament that I was using required a lot more heat to print correctly. The drying it made a huge difference in its ability to print without failing. What's the other thing you remember about PETG?
Since it's so sticky, you might want a second layer between your glass and the print, like glue. I've heard painters tape. You would think gluing it or tape or anything else would make it harder, but really it's just that extra little layer that's not on a hard surface that'll allow it to release.
Exactly. The lack of adhesion was not a problem for us. It adhered well.
And by golly, it is still adhered to this day.
To this day, PETG has adhered to that plate.
Maybe we'll just put it...
Maybe we'll just put it up by spiral. The PLA had a lot more big chunks. This one's got a couple of big chunks. And that probably speaks to the rigidity of the PLA. I was kind of expecting this to bounce off more and be tougher, and as a result, hold up better.
It did have a few good bounces where, like you were saying, I was kind of, oh man, is this even going to catch it all and do anything?
The PLA definitely held up better, so being so much harder, so much more rigid in this instance. Use cases, people, use cases! It is about the use case, isn't it? So straight off the bat, it's interesting that it hasn't sprung back at all. I guess the PLA ones, some of them kind of sprung back. Yeah, they had a barely springing back. You can tell these ones yielded a lot more. This conformed to the pressure happening and then just like stayed like this. This one kind of had the catastrophic failure, but even that, it's conformed to the stresses it was subject to. So it's that kind of speaks to the fact that it's more on the toughness and less rigid, because it stayed like that. Yeah. After didn't it just explode. And then you can see, like, if you look at it in the light and stuff, it is a lot stringier. Oh yeah, yeah. You can kind of see all the wisps, and even as they fail and as it breaks, it's pulling and yielding. And then little chopper boy. So this one we're mostly using the grinder or cutter part of the... We did a little bit of sanding with that buffing wheel. It did kind of go through it. Initially I was like, oh wow, it's standing up pretty well. It wasn't. It was just really slow and he wasn't pushing. It wasn't quite butter. Yeah. But it went through it. It was especially once you turn it up, barely into pressure, it was notably faster than the PLA. Though it can withstand the temperatures and stuff, and it is tougher, it's softer material, more or less. I do like how well it's smoothed out though, when you're using the buffing wheel on it. Like, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, that is. These are gonna be fun to crush. Yeah. I like that. Stay tuned for that. Alright, let's wrap this boy up. What do we think, Kory? What did we learn? Print a higher temp, still stringy. Put on a second layer on your print bed. We need an interface layer to protect it. I will say to that end as well, on the spring steel plates like this, I didn't do any interface layer, came off just fine. Otherwise, yes, messing with temperatures as you tune in filament, whatever, it prints a lot hotter. What about, we learned about drying our filament is really important. I think that's kind of it. Everything we concluded was what we sort of knew already. Increased toughness, but it's kind of softer because that's the trade-off. And everything that we tested and everything we saw and observed exhibited those characteristics.
I would say so.
Stay tuned. We will be going through a little bit more testing with our different infill and perimeter values on the testers. Stay tuned for that so we can explore more things together. The next filament I'm pretty excited about.
Ooh.
It's not super exotic. Anybody that 3D prints has probably already 3D printed with it. I, however, have not.
Ooh, first time. All right.
I'm gonna get roasted for having never printed with it because it's
I can't wait.
it's like, oh yeah, you print with this, or this, and this is number 4. I've never done.
Never done it.
Let us know in the comments what you think it is. Thanks for watching. Watch more videos if you like our videos. Comment if you like our videos. Like our videos if you like our videos. If you don't like our videos, tell me why you don't like it. If you offer meaningful, constructive criticism in the comments, not just, you have dumb hair.
11 size font, double spaced.
Yep.
I'm checking all the periods and exclamation marks.
I don't want any of that chat GPT stuff. Like, you gotta write this.
2 pages, obviously, front and back.
500 words or less. 2
Uh,
pages would be more than that.
Write really big words.
Needs to be 2 pages, but 200 words or less. Not a word more.
Or else.
Dang, we just keep derailing. Thanks for watching this video. See ya. No, that's not what
Yeah,
we do.
wrong.
We say bye.
So, bye. So close. Let's try that one again. All right, thanks for watching. Okay, bye.